admin. That's what I thought. But I went to work for a couple of different companies after college, did some design work, printed circuit board design and things like that before I ended up landing at Cooperative Energy in '06. So I'll let Steven introduce himself and then we'll get to talking about Cooperative Energy.
I'm Steven Sims, also a graduate of Mississippi State Office of Mechanical Engineering in 2008. Co-op 3 semesters at a paper mill and had the chance to go back and work there full time. So I went after graduation and worked in pulp and paper for about 8.5 years, and then found my way to Cooperative Energy, and I've been there about 6 years. So we're happy to be here. We appreciate the opportunity. We're also going to be at the career fair tomorrow, so we'd love to see y'all there. I think getting a little bit of feedback about the career fair and different things. One thing we wanted to tell y'all up front, there may have been a little bit of confusion on how some of that stuff works in co-oping and things like that, but we do have open co-op positions available, and we are always looking for electrical engineers. That's one of our most sought after degrees. So we'd love for y'all to come talk to us. We post jobs, say right now it's the fall semester, so we post for next spring and next summer. So if you'd be interested in co-oping starting out next summer or something like that, we'd love for you to come by and talk to us and get a little bit more details. And we're also going to give your teacher a slide that you can get a hold of us and have some information on how to get on and apply. If for some reason you're not able to come to the career fair. So anyway, hopefully all that makes sense. So yeah, Cooperative Energy. To be honest, I've been to the career fair a lot, both with my former employee and with where I'm at now, and it's always a lot of fun coming and talking to students, and it's a wonderful opportunity to come talk about Cooperative Energy, especially having worked some other places and been around a little bit, because it really is. I told somebody the other day, I think it's the best kept secret in Mississippi as far as companies go. And so I want to talk a little bit about kind of who we are and what we do. I'm mechanical, as I mentioned, so I'm a little bit more on the generation side. That's where most of my background is. So I'll talk about that, and then we'll transition to Scotty and let him cover a few more things. But we're also going to kind of stop a little bit in the presentation and give a chance for questions. So if there's something, we want this to be interactive. We are not lecturers. We like conversations better than dialogue. So if something comes up, you want to ask about it, feel free to raise your hand and stop us. We'll be happy to talk. So we're here for you. We're here to talk about what you want to talk about. Yeah, Cooperative Energy. So we're headquartered in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Most of y'all probably know where that's at. It's actually where the logo is over the state. And we are a generation and transmission cooperative. So what that means is we generate electricity for everywhere in our footprint. We have a lot of different ways that we generate electricity. We'll talk about that a little bit more on another slide, but we generate about, I think about 1,900 megawatts of electricity. So to kind of put that into perspective, that's about 1.5 million homes is what we can produce electricity supply. And as you can see, pretty large service territory. So the light green represents our service area, all the way south central Mississippi and then up into the Delta. And the reason we're not a very household name is because we generate and then we have transmission. So we take that that power that we generate and send it over high voltage lines to substations that then feed distribution co-ops. So those are probably the people you are more familiar with. If you grew up in Mississippi, there's a good chance you were probably part of our service territory, and you may recognize, Southern Pine, Dixie Electric, Coast Electric, Yazoo Valley. Those may be the names that you're a little bit more familiar with because that's who you pay your power bill to, or who your parents paid their power bill to. So, if you are, inside that service territory, though, we are the company that generated that electricity and got it to those substations for you to use. So, again, just kind of a bit of a hidden name there. And really, what makes Cooperative Energy different? I know y'all probably have a lot of companies that come speak to you, and to be honest, every one of them is different. Every one of them has their own culture. Every one of them has their own methodology, their own way of doing business. They have their own advantages and disadvantages. You know, and I really want to talk to you about what makes us different, what makes us who we are. If you had to ask me what's the number one thing that makes Cooperative, you know, different than the rest, I would tell you it goes all the way back to our founding. So we were formed in the early 40s. FDR actually, his administration passed as a part of their New Deal something called the Rural Electrification Act. And so what that did, you know, back in the 40s, you know, electricity was kind of a bit of a new thing, and a lot of for-profit companies were going, you know, like for-profit companies do, and they're making money off of a product, and their product was electricity. So if you want to make money with electricity, you go places where, you know, there's a lot of users and it's easy to get to. So what that meant is, you know, big towns, cities, industrial areas, that's who had electricity. So that kind of rolled on for a little while. As y'all know, most of Mississippi doesn't fit under any of those criteria. And thankfully, you know, the federal government kind of recognized that and wanted to help incentivize companies to spread electricity out, because, you know, they felt like electricity is not just something that some people should have and others not. I mean, from a quality of life perspective, think about what you can do when you have electricity that you can't without it. So they enacted this act, which essentially gave you know, very low interest loans to what amounted to farmers, who then kind of banded together and formed these cooperatives. And so these cooperatives were then tasked with going and taking electricity to all these rural areas of Mississippi. So again, that's why our coverage territory is so big, because that's what we did. You know, we went out to all these rural areas and brought them electricity. And really that, you know, that mentality is still, that we were founded with, is still what we use today. Our mission, you know, it says our mission is simple: to deliver our members reliable and affordable energy in a safe and environmentally friendly manner. So we, you know, we are a cooperative, which means we are not for profit. We do not have stakeholders. We do not have investors. We do not have profit margins. Everything that we, you know, as you could say, make, any money that we make, we call it margins. You know, if we bring in more money than we send out, that immediately goes back to the people who buy our electricity, and they get a discount on that electricity. So if you notice, you know, at Walmart, you're a customer. You know, at a for-profit power company, you're a ratepayer. So we don't use any of that terminology. So inside of Cooperative Energy, it's a member. And that's not just like a fancy, we want you to feel like you're a part of us. As a, you know, you actually are a member if you're in our service territory. You literally own part of our company. And so really that's why we exist, is to serve our members. And I know, you know, maybe it's difficult to put into words, to be honest, the difference of working for a for-profit. And I have nothing against for-profit companies. I spent 8.5 years at a for-profit company. That's kind of that's what makes America go. You know, most of it is capitalism and for-profit. So I have nothing bad to say about a for-profit company. But I do want to highlight that there is a difference between a not-for-profit and a for-profit. And really where that comes into play is when you have to make decisions about, you know, where do we spend our money, right? So at a for-profit company, you're going to make that decision based on what gives the best rate of return. So if this investment or this improvement makes sense financially, we'll do it. Well, when there is no profit, you know, we're just judging, is it good for the members? So when we look at a project or we look at an investment, the hurdle we have to meet is this good for the members? And if it is, we do it. It's not about a rate of return. It's not about, well, our stock price is a little lower, the market's not doing well, we need to cut spending back. So as an employee, man, that's a lot of freedom. That's a lot of freedom to always have the best interests of your members at heart. So to talk a little bit about the power process, we've hit on this a little bit. Everything starts at the power plant. You know, that would be the generation piece. So we generate the electricity, that goes out. On the second bullet, you see transmission lines. So, you know, these are high voltage lines. These are the big lines you see with the big right-of-ways, going hundreds and hundreds of miles all across the state. So, you know, that power then goes into a substation. And really, that substation is kind of the the breaking point to where our company, you know, we get it to there and then the distribution co-op picks it up. So they kind of pick it up at that substation, you know, the voltage is lowered to what's gonna come to your house. And then they go out on distribution lines. So, and y'all are very familiar with distribution lines. That's what you see all along the roads. You see little, you know, transformers fixed on the side. You're very used to what those look like. And obviously, you know, from there it goes to your home. So that's kind of how it works. So I did want to spend just a little bit of time talking about more my area, which is generation. So inside of Cooperative Energy, we're blessed with a very diverse mix of generating units. We have, you know, everything from reciprocating engines or internal combustion engines to aeroderivative engines, which means it's literally the same engine that's on an airplane, and they take it off and they put it on a foundation and make electricity with it. So those are pretty cool to work on. We have boilers, we have steam turbines, we have hydro, you know, solar, you know, we have coal still in the mix at different places. We have a very diverse amount of generation resources, which is really kind of fun for me because there's always something different to work on. There's always something else to learn. You know, I'm a mechanical guy, and power generation is very mechanical. There's a lot of heat transfer, pumps, pipes, valves, steam, you know, the stuff that I went to school for and like to work on. You know, that being said, that doesn't mean we don't have electrical engineers who work there, because, you know, it's not the 50s anymore. When we want to, you know, raise a level or increase flow, you know, nobody goes out and they turn a valve, right? Nobody's going out and flipping a lever every time they want something to happen. You know, nowadays, somebody's sitting at a computer and we have what we call a DCS, or distributed control system. And they're clicking a button somewhere, which is sending a signal, which is moving an actuator, right? There's logic built in that's raising a level when it senses. Their sensors, pressure indicators, temperature indicators. When they see these changes out in the process in the plant, you know, that they're actually taking over and making things happen, which I think is cool. I don't necessarily understand all of it. That's what Scotty's for, but it's really neat. And I'll say, you know, I know this is kind of an intro class, and a lot of people are still figuring out kind of what they want to do and how they want to do it, and you probably hadn't even had enough exposure to really know what kind of engineer, where you want to go to. I will say one cool thing that's working at the plants. So the plants are a very interactive environment. There's a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. You're going to have welders, mechanics, I&E technicians. You've got chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. So, you know, as you kind of think about yourself and think about what drives you and what makes you, you know, want to do things, if you're the kind of person that likes a diverse team, you know, if you like, you know, being around big equipment, if you like, you know, big turbines and generators and things like that, you know, power plant may be a place to look into, because you have all that stuff. And, you know, you've got a lot of electrical, but you can learn a lot of other stuff too. So it's, you know, if you're more of a team kind of guy who loves seeing things from a big picture perspective, a power plant could be something to check into. So I'll let Scotty pick it up from there.